place is the new recording button. And so I went to your backend, internet. I went to start the recording. I was like, wait, no, muscle memory is bad because the button had changed.
As someone who dabbles in the user experience, user interface thing, that is bad.
It's bad. It's big bad.
So bad. It's like, why did they change things? It's like, I know where things are. Don't change it.
At the very least, don't put a massive, inadvertent undo it all button right next to the I want to go forward button.
Agreed.
Imagine during the Cold War if every nuclear base was just like, okay, I have the launch button and the do not launch button, and they're both next to each other, and they're both big and bright and red.
Yeah. Oh my God.
In my little design circles, that from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, when Groot had that bomb and it had two identical, gorgeous, candy-like red buttons next to each other, and one blows it up now and one blows it up after a timer.
Yes.
In my little circle, that speaks so many volumes. It's like, yeah.
Okay, so we have recording, we have sound, we have video, and we have a wonderful guest joining us today. The one and only Guernsey Scientist, Liz. Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming on our show. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Sorry, am I supposed to say more?
You
can say whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm really excited because Benjamin and I have been friends since years ago on Twitter. And I remember when you started the podcast with Space Case Sarah, and then it stopped. And then you started again. So, yeah, I'm really excited that I'm here today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And when that came to an end, Kovi and I started whispering to each other, we can keep doing this, right? We're having fun. And he said, yes, and voila.
Et voila, yeah. And then, 60-odd episodes later, here we are.
Almost 60 episodes. Almost. We're getting close. This is our 59th episode right now.
That's incredible.
We're recording.
Yeah. I feel like we have a very small but very loyal and enthusiastic fan base.
We do. I went to a high school reunion of sorts a few weeks ago, and I spoke to some people, and 4 of them said, hey, I listened to your show. I don't talk to them at all, but I listened to your show, they said. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. So yes, we have a fan base that they look like anybody else, except, they're the scientist fan.
That's good. That's good to know that, the fan base is not immediately identifiable, that it appeals to a broader range of people.
You could be in a bakery one day just buying bagels, and then you never know. That guy next to you going for the onion loaf could be a nerd in the
could be a fan.
I would sincerely hope that all of the Nerd and the Scientist listeners can appreciate a good onion loaf or a good everything bagel.
I would hope so. You'd
hope so. And none of them like caraway bread. I can't stand it.
I don't think I've ever had it.
I don't think I've
caraway
ever heard of
seed. It. Okay, good. No, don't look for it. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. It's the devil's bread.
I mean, I spent years living in Germany, so I don't even think that would be considered bread by German standards. Because otherwise, I'd have eaten it in Germany. They have very clear rules about what is and isn't bread and sausage as well.
It's important to make those distinctions.
Oh, it is. British sausages are not sausages, according to Germans. So, there we go.
Is this like, it's only bratwurst if it comes from the bratwurst region of Germany, otherwise it's just sparkling sausage?
Oh, I wish I could say that in German. No, it's more that their sausages are 100% meat. And so the British way of mixing in other things, we've just created an abomination, a lumpy abomination, because their sausages tend to be a lot more finely chopped as well. And they don't, not all of them, but a large percentage of them do not approve of British sausages.
I'm not going to talk about anything to do with biology. I want to do a deep dive into sausages because
We
they're
need a
they're
German
the
here.
second best food after hamburgers.
We'd need a proper German here to actually do a deep dive into sausage. And there must be someone that studies sausages.
Oh, I'm
A
sure there are,
sausageologist.
and I'm sure they come home from
Yeah.
work smiling every day too.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely would. What did
Oh,
you do all
yeah.
day? Oh, well, I was testing a new flavour combination. What did you do all day?
I-
Looked at spreadsheets.
If I studied sausages all day and came home, I would feel like a real wiener.
Oh, very
weaning.
good.
Sorry, I'll shut myself out.
No,
No.
it's fine.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but
No,
speaking
Liz,
of-
what animal in the ocean looks most like a sausage? There. That's a good segue
That's a
into.
great segue.
Well, I mean, you've got your sea cucumbers, but I'd say salps. So and salps
They're what?
also salp, SALP. So they
SALP,
are
okay.
sort of clear gelatinous planktonic things. And they form clones, so you get these chains of salps. And so technically, the longest creature in the world is a salp, but I don't think it is
Yes.
because they're identical clones, but they're individual segments. So I don't think it counts. I still think it's the blue whale because that's one animal rather than clones. But that's the kind of thing that you'll argue about when slightly inebriated at a conference.
I think I did a
Hypothetically.
daily science or a
Hypothetically.
collective noun on salps, I
Hypothetically.
think, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
When you explain
so
the
the
whole
collective-
connected thing.
The collective noun for a salp is just a salp if they're just like one long organism by some definition.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. I've never looked up the etymology of the word. You do. Oh, I'm going to totally go and do that later. No, not later. Tomorrow. I'll do it
No
tomorrow.
sleep today.
Yeah.
That was a much better segue than the one that I had planned because I was going to ask you about your favorite marine animal, going off your lumpy abomination comment.
It's
You can
really
still ask.
difficult. It's really difficult to say what my favourite marine creature is because the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh no, that's my favourite. So I go through waves of being all about, to quote the Germans, es geht die Wurst, it's all about the sausage. And I go through stages where I'm all about one particular animal and then I'll move on to the next. Like a butterfly. You gotta love jellyfish, because they've been
Yes.
around for more than 500 million years with neither a brain nor a backbone, much like some politicians. So, I mean, and jellyfish are becoming a clear winner in climate change. Like the changing of the seawater carbonate chemistry, the warming oceans, they are doing very, very well. So you've got to love a jellyfish. They've survived, I don't even know how many mass extinctions. Got to be at least 5. So yeah,
Huh. Wow.
they're
So,
pretty
ironically,
cool.
being a brainless creature has made them evolutionarily one of the most adaptive and intelligent creatures.
Yeah, they're just not worried.
Complexity equals extinction. You over specialize.
There you go.
So I love jellyfish, but I mean whales and dolphins. That's what I do a lot of work on. I do like my whale, and I've got a soft spot for crabs because things keep evolving into crab. Yeah, I can't give you a favourite one. Like, there's so many different. Like, oh,
Things keep evolving
Ooh.
into crabs.
Yeah, it's called the
they
crab
do.
cycle.
Oh
What?
no,
Sorry.
it's not called the crab. It's crabs. That was a
I
really
know,
good
I
joke.
know.
It's called. I can't remember the word. It's like crabification, but it's not crabification. But things do keep trying to evolve into crabs, and I do like crabs a lot.
For fans of the Krebs cycle, which is the chemical reaction cycle, I am extremely sorry, but I had to make that joke.
Oh man,
They'll just have to.
I love
deal
that I
with
heard
it.
a joke.
We got layers here.
Yeah, like an onion.
Ah, yes, or a parfait.
Yeah.
So Liz, how did you get started into becoming a marine biologist?
Yeah.
What was the origin story?
Well, I'm on a tiny island. It's only about 60 square kilometers or 24 square miles, I think. And so I grew up literally at the top of the hill, and the sea was at the bottom. And this is back in the 80s, so it was off you go, be back for dinner kind of thing. So we used to go down to the beach, and I spent a huge amount of my childhood falling in and out of rock pools and surprisingly not dying on the cliffs. So I knew other kids wanted to be an astronaut, but I wanted to be an oceanographer from a very young age. And being an astronaut never appealed because whenever I'm interested in something, I research it obsessively, and I discovered all about the plumbing on space on the spaceship. Yeah, yeah, the toilets in space, and I was in at the age of 6. I was like, absolutely not. So so yeah, I always wanted to do that, but then I nearly ended up going to flight school. I was going to train as a commercial pilot, and I could fly a plane before I could drive a car. And then 9/11 happened. So to get into the flight school I wanted, you needed a degree. So they were just like, get a degree, get at least a 2-2. And I did geology because I love rocks as well. Rocks are really fascinating. And we've got really old rocks here. 9/11 happened. And then the flight school bursary went. And I ended up in oceanography in Germany via Bristol, where I did a master's in paleobiology. So it's a little bit random. So I went to Germany to do a PhD because I'm from the Channel Islands and we are not part of the UK. We are part of the British Islands, not the British Isles. UK or the UK or Europe. And at that time, if you weren't from the UK, you were not eligible for UK funding to do a PhD, which I discovered when I had an interview for a PhD and we were going through the process of applying for funding. And they were like, you're not eligible.
Okay.
But I could do one in Germany. So I went to Germany to do a PhD rather than my home country. And in hindsight, that was a little bit too much because I didn't speak German. So I was trying to do a PhD, learn German, and move from paleobiology into biogeochemical oceanography and solve a problem that hadn't been solved in over 20 years. In hindsight, I was a bit optimistic. I was in Germany.
Yeah.
And I loved the lectures. I love giving lectures. I love going to conferences and giving talks. And, all the other PhD students would be freaking out. And I'd be like, but this is the best bit. This, we get to go and everyone has to be quiet while you talk about your research. And then I wasn't making any progress and I couldn't work out why, which led me down the path to get diagnosed with ADHD. And having told you my random career path to get to Germany in the first place, there were signs. And I left research because, I wasn't getting anywhere. And I discovered that I like talking. I like when other people do the work and then I get to explain it and fangirl over it. And I hate writing papers. I hate writing them. I'd much rather do the field work, collect the data, have the fun, give it to someone else. And I love editing papers. So I had access to this huge library of all this research. So I remember at one point being asked, well, are you not reading papers? And I was like, no, I'm reading about 20 papers a week. And it took people quite a while to realise, that I was only reading about one that was related to what I was working on. Which, when you're trying to do a PhD, you do need to you engage your inner project manager and stay focused. And I find everything interesting. I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
I was having a conversation with someone about this yesterday, and we'll dive back into individual points of that fascinating journey that you just mentioned in a second. For me, I also all through school when I was a kid. So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was in 4th grade, and I was put on Ritalin, and it didn't really help. And I was just hyperactive, and I couldn't focus on anything. The only solution ultimately was to try to skip me a grade so I would be more challenged by the material. And what I realized when I started my undergraduate studies, which also I was doing in a foreign language, because I thought, oh, it's physics, so it'll mostly be numbers and maybe some Greek letters. Yeah, so I completely relate to what you're saying. Trying to do an undergraduate degree in a foreign language you don't speak is hard enough. A PhD, I couldn't imagine. But one thing I did learn during that process was like how to recognize what hyperactive state your mind might be in, and to try to switch tasks, and to like not force yourself to do something that you can't be doing at that moment in that particular mental state. Just to, if you feel like you can't be writing on paper, which completely relate to what you were saying, read a paper, catch up on emails. Like, there are always work things that you can be doing, and they're always different, I find. I don't know if you relate to that.
Yeah, productive procrastination, I like to call it.
There you go. That's a really great name.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had been diagnosed before PhD, that might have helped. I didn't get diagnosed until I finally went, you know what, I'm never going to finish this. I'm just going to go. But yeah, it's really good that task switching thing. I just need to make sure that I have a list. Well, I tend to use like Notion, a dashboard now, because otherwise I put my lists on sticky notes, which you lose, or in one of the 3 million notebooks that I somehow lie to myself that I'm actually going to finish and, cross out my tasks. It's an amazing deception that we play on ourselves. Yeah. Although email is an abomination. I hate it so much.
A lumpy abomination.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I find, unfortunately for me, my interests last as long as the dopamine does. And I have discovered in recent years that I'm interested until I reach a point of, I know I have enough information, I understand that well enough. And then I don't care. Like, there'll be so much more to learn. I'm done now. The happiest I was during my PhD was when I was copy editing other people's papers, because
It's so fun, right?
It's so fun because they've done the hard work. They've baked the cake.
I get it.
And in fact, you're not even putting the icing on it. You are putting the sprinkles and the candles and lighting it and going, yay, isn't this cool? That's oh no, actually maybe science communication is the lighting the candles and celebrating it. But copy editing is the icing of the cake. They've done the hard work.
I could eat the cake.
You're just making it pretty. Yeah. You're just making it pretty.
Nice.
That's fair.
But of course, you don't really get paid.
I could do that part.
So yeah, you need to be, and you need to be good at understanding the point someone's trying to make. What I find really interesting, and I wonder if you find this too, is that I'm out of practice now because I haven't really edited papers for a while. But I got to the stage where if you didn't give me the name of the person, I could work out what nationality they were by the writing style.
Interesting.
So Germans want to get the absolute correct word. So if there is a certain German word, they want the English equivalent. But we know that English is a very lazy language, and we can make a whole grammatically correct sentence out of the F word. Whereas in German, you need to be precise, and so they were tearing themselves in knots trying to find the right English equivalent. And you'd get these really archaic English words turning up, and I'd be like, "We don't say that," and they're like, "But it means this," and I'm like, "Yes, I know, but we haven't used that in 300 years. You will not get this approved." French scientists love run-on sentences, so you might have a sentence that's 3 lines long. Russians are very confident, and it's almost moving towards statements rather than sentences. And then there are other nationalities that do other things as well. And I loved editing papers.
I remember that when I was in film school, we were able to tell if it was a German film or a French film or an American film or Canadian film, just by how it was shot. Really long, crisp black and white angular shadows, that's German. Something sad and weepy far off in the distance, constantly there, French.
And if there are a lot of explosions a la Michael Bay, it's an American film.
Listen,
or
I'm
if they've got
sick and tired of having to apologize for Michael Bay on behalf of other Americans. I've been doing it for decades. I'm putting it down right now on this podcast. I'm so sorry for that guy. Every country's got one. That's ours. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm British, so I think if we're going for apologies, like with the British colonial history, sorry, like there are very few
Michael Bay
countries that
ruined
we
Transformers.
Yes, he did. I've stopped watching them. I can't remember which one it was. If it's the second or the third when they brought the planet into Earth's orbit, and then they stopped it. Like basic physics means that once you bring two planets into close proximity, they are going to crash. You can't bring a planet into another planet's atmosphere and keep them at a set distance.
Nope.
I have so many questions. I don't think I saw that one. Probably for the best.
Don't worry about it. Again, seriously, it goes back to sorry about Michael Bay.
The thing is, I can put aside my disbelief when movies get science really wrong if they are consistent with the rules of the universe they've created. It's when they set up these new rules, you're like, okay, I'm going to put all my knowledge of physics or biology or chemistry or whatever aside, and then they just break it, and I'm like,
So what's the worst film biology thing that you've seen? Because I feel like Benjamin and I talk about bad physics or bad science in like space movies, but what's the most inaccurate thing that you saw?
And where does the abyss rank in there?
I was going to say The Shape of Water, but yeah.
The Shape of Water. No, okay, so this is. See, there's a couple that I really like with the biology. I actually think the worst movie for absolutely shitting on science is actually 2012. Everything in
that
that
one made
movie,
me. I shook my head.
I made me so angry. The tidal wave that goes up the Himalayas. How much water do you think we have? I mean, I know 70% of the Earth is water, but come on. Oh my god! If you had a tidal wave that big, it would and the whole LA earthquakes. In fact, I think the only thing in that film that didn't make me angry was when they stole the Russian long-range plane from LA to fly to the Himalayas, because that model of plane the Russians have in Antarctica, and when I was there, we had a horrific accident and we needed to get people from Antarctica, where we didn't have the medical facilities, to Cape Town in Africa, and that plane can do that flight from Antarctica all the way up to Cape Town. So I think that is the only part of 2012 that didn't make me want to punch the screen.
I thought she was going to say Little Mermaid.
No, Little Mermaid doesn't bother me that much. Little Mermaid. Well, I mean, the Little Mermaid. Actually, if we're going to be correct,
this marine biologist gives stamp of approval to Little Mermaid.
Well, I mean, technically, actually, what annoyed me was when they did the live-action remake and people were losing their absolute minds over the fact that Ariel was being played by, I can't remember if she's biracial or black actress. That's actually much more realistic than having this pasty pale shining thing in the ocean, which is really unlikely. And if you have got anything that shines that brightly, one, they are either like venomous or poisonous or something, or they're super aggressive, because most animals will reject animals of the same species that look very different, like albino. So you tend to get really aggressive albino versions because they're the only ones that survive. So Moby Dick, for example, is based on a real life sperm whale, Mocha-Dick, who was considered white. So if he was albino or had I can never pronounce it, leucitic, so white but dark eyes, then he would have been much more aggressive to survive. The only exception that I know of are orcas or killer whales, because they will accept white and albino killer whales. But every other species that I know of rejects them.
The killer whales are the only racially tolerant species on the planet.
They are. Well, it's not even a racial thing. It's more accepting of people being different, or whales
I
being
thought there were.
different.
I remember several articles from a couple years ago that there was a bottlenose dolphin with albinism, and it was very, 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 very bright light pink,
Yeah.
and it was part of a pod.
Yeah.
that's the
Okay. Maybe
correct term.
bottlenose dolphins do as well. Cetaceans.
Pink dolphins are a thing.
They
feel like
are.
when
They're
I was in
river
South
dolphins.
America, there were a lot of pink river dolphins.
Yeah, pink river dolphins.
Ah,
They're kind of like a
that
dirty
are-
grey pink kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are
goodness.
very weird. Well, there's been a recent paper that's come out about them that's very weird. The males indulge in a very odd behavior, swimming on their back and weeing on each other. And there are lots of speculations as to exactly what they're doing. But they seem to enjoy it. And staying with the river dolphins for a moment, what do you think threats to river dolphins that live in freshwater in South Africa are? They live in a rainforest. What do you think the threats are? Because one of the main threats is something that I only learnt last year, and it is wild.
I'm gonna say, yeah.
Go on.
Main threats to freshwater dolphins in freshwater.
In
I
a
can tell you what
tropical
it's not.
rainforest.
Us?
It's no.
Yep.
It's so.
Oh, never mind.
So when I was in Bolivia, and
I gotta guess.
when I first encountered them, it was not the was it caimans or crocodiles, because they actually stay away from the pink dolphins.
Correct.
There were also piranhas in that river, and the dolphins I don't think had an issue with them. So not piranhas and not caimans/crocodiles.
I'm going for some sort of snake relative.
I was going to say, yeah, so there were snakes around there, but there were also capybaras around there. I want to guess capybaras.
Ooh, I like
No
the way
way.
you think.
Are capybaras supposed to be docile and adorable?
Yeah, they're also
Until
massive
they're not.
rodents.
The world's biggest rodent. I know that because I did a thing once.
So in a tropical rainforest, particularly in Amazonian rainforest, deforestation, habitat loss, but actually, hippos. Hippos are a major threat to the river dolphins in Colombia because Pablo Escobar had hippos in his menagerie, and when he was taken out, a lot of the animals from the menagerie were taken.
He wanted them, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And he got some. And
he
they became an
did.
invasive species.
Bingo! Because all hippos do is breed, and then they churn up the water, they dig, they produce a lot of dung, and the dolphins need crystal clear water, and the hippos are so big that the dolphins can't, they can't outcompete them, and hippos breed. There's more than 250 now, and they're causing major problems. And I find it really ironic because whales are hippos' closest living relative.
That's funny.
So hippos are in the process of evolving into being fully aquatic, and yet they are now a major threat for one of their
I used to think that hippos were absolutely adorable, chubby animals, and I became friends with someone from Zimbabwe. I was just saying, a friend of mine was from Zimbabwe, and he heard me talking all cutesy once about hippos and how adorable they were, and he stopped that right away. Like, no, they're the most horrible, dangerous killer things there are. If you see hippos in Zimbabwe, you make a run for it. Don't get in the water near them. Stay away from them. They're violent. I'm like, but they're cute. They eat pumpkins whole on TikTok and everything. Like, no.
What do I feel like anybody who is like grown up in an area where there are actual hippos would be terrified by the game hungry hippos. Like, that would be the most torturous, horrific thing they could imagine.
Yeah, it would. It really would. Oh my god. Yeah, no, hippos can outrun us. They can run faster than us. And although they don't technically swim, they
game that must be.
Bounce across the riverbed. They can outswim us. They can destroy boats. They are strong enough to bite you in half. They can
That's
crack through your
terrifying.
femur.
They do swim. They're actually very good swimmers.
Has someone remade like a Jaws-like movie about hippos?
I really think someone should. That would be so much more realistic because Jaws also is such. Oh yeah, Jaws. Jaws. You wanted a film with the biology makes me mad. Jaws. Absolutely screwed over white sharks. Like even Steven Spielberg apologized. Yeah, they do not behave like. I can't even watch the movie now that I know about sharks. I know even like a little bit about shark ecology. That movie makes me so angry. Lake Placid, on the other hand, absolutely love.
I believe that there were sharks everywhere after I saw that movie, in every bit of
Yeah, I'm not
water I ever
surprised.
went into.
Yeah. You're more likely to be killed by a cow. Cows kill more people every year than sharks do. Gross.
I'm so curious. I know that you had mentioned to Benjamin prior to recording a film that you've been working on. Is that right?
Yes. So we have just. I'm part of Wild Islands, and we make wildlife films about wildlife on islands because they are really important. And we have just done a film called Pollinators Great and Small, and we have shot this in 4K, a lot of it in 120 frames per second, so you can actually see the wing beats of, bees. We've got a lovely sequence where we have a little solitary bee coming out of its little burrow and then taking off like a helicopter and flying away. And it took our videographer 6 hours to get that footage, and it is like a 10-second clip, but it's amazing. And what is so cool about doing macro filming is we have bees the size of hawks, and when we filmed in 120 frames, the sound, it sounds like a jungle. When we first played that first bit of footage, we accused the producer of having doctored it in post, but it's not. It's actually the sound slowed down, and it's like, oh my god, irreducible
Yeah.
complexity. Everything's fractals, and it's incredible. So how many eyes do you think a bee has? It's not two. Yay, 5. But it's so
Yeah, same hand
good.
gestures and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, for people who are
It's,
just listening to this episode, both Benjamin and I held up a hand.
yeah, 5 fingers, and then did an identical happy dance that looked like it had been coordinated in advance. Um,
Nope.
but
I
yeah,
swear it wasn't.
People who love science love all science and love reading all the little science factoids about everything, and we're
yeah,
all on the same team, 100%.
but yeah, it's so cool. I mean, it's so cool to actually be able to see the 2 huge compound eyes and then the 3 little ocelli and the primitive eyes in the center of their forehead. I think what my favorite part of doing this project is that a lot of wildlife gets a bad rap. It's got bad marketing. We've just talked about Jaws, the damage that's done. Plants are undervalued, fungi are undervalued, but insects in
Yeah.
particular, people think of them as creepy crawlies, but they're not. They're mini beasts. And doing this film, we really got to see the different personalities. So bumblebees, they're a bit dopey. They're very cute. If you're too close, they will warn you. They'll stick their leg in the air, like a go away sign. And if you don't, then they'll sting you. We filmed. We've got this amazing footage of an invasive hornet. So it's the Asian hornet, and they are massive. You can see that they're a predatory animal when you see them. And we were filming one at a bait station. So there's this project to try and track down the nests to eradicate them because the ecological damage they do is insane, and that could be like a whole hour lecture on that. But what was amazing was when this hornet was coming in to feed,
Right.
the buzz of the bumblebees in the area changed. You could hear
Ooh.
the buzz dropped, and you could hear that it was an angry buzz. But normally the bumblebees were quite fine. butterflies are red admiral butterflies are aggressive. I never knew that until we started filming them and see how differently they act compared to other species. We filmed in a honeybee hive and we had to wear the whole suit thing, but we also filmed inside a wild wasp nest and didn't need any protective gear at all because the wasps did not care. But if you'd asked me which was going to be the more terrifying experience, I'd have said the wasp nest. So it's
Nobody expects the butterflies.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, and yeah, it was just, and what's been really interesting. So we've all learned.
Wow. Yeah. I think also like people don't realize, and I actually had learned this from you, that like, you know, I think people do realize that bees, despite the bad rap, are incredibly important pollinators. But what I learned from you is how important flies are as pollinators.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we used to think it was 16%, but now it looks like it's more like 20%. And I think as more research is done, we're going to increase that more and more. If we didn't have flies and midges, we would not have chocolate.
Is I actually have this written along the lines of people not knowing that flies actually have a huge contribution to our ecosystem. Like, what other animals out there, which are seemingly small or insignificant or annoying, actually provide such a great help to our lovely planet?
This is where it gets really cool because you have deliberate pollinators who are setting out to pollinate. So your bees are a deliberate pollinator. And then you have accidental pollinators who, by the process of drinking nectar, are pollinating, but they're not intending to. So ants, for example, will often be pollinators, but they don't intend to be. They're often farming aphids, doing other anti things, and they're not intending to be pollinators, whereas your bees are. And your bumblebees are a very small group. And 90% of bee species that do pollination are solitary bees who live on their own. They might live in a side by side, but they live on their own. But you have your bumblebees, your honeybees, your solitary bees, your wasps, your butterflies, moths, beetles, and flies. And in some places, you have bats that are pollinators. And you even animals like your dog. So my dog will run into the undergrowth. She's a spaniel, and she will come out covered in pollen. And then she will go and say hello to my brother who has hay fever, and he will promptly sneeze. But she is also acting as a pollinator. There's also been some really cool research that's come out about a wolf that is a deliberate pollinator. So a staggering variety, and often, and things like hoverflies. Hoverflies pollinate something like 71% of agricultural crops, and you can travel 100 kilometers, and they're just like a tiny
That's
little
far.
hoverfly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what 100 kilometers is in miles. I'm not going to do that calculation. It's too late at night. It's an easy calculation.
Still,
I'm still not going to do
a little
it.
thing, even a mile's far.
So it's incredible. And again, this is where I think
we shouldn't encourage him to look for miles.
and this is where science communication is so important, because we have the whole Save the Bees campaign, but people think of it being
100%.
honeybees. Honeybees are fine. They don't need saving. It's everything else.
Benjamin's just posted here in the chat that 100 kilometers would be 62 miles. Yeah, it's always nice to know that there's an easy way to remember the imperial system. Oh, no, sorry, I'm thinking of the metric system. My bad.
Yeah.
Imperial system's awesome until you need to use it.
I mean, at least the US committed to the imperial system. The UK has been like, we're going to do some stuff in imperial and some stuff in SI units, and we're not going to be really consistent about it, because why would we? We'll just upset everybody. Yeah, it does my head in. It really does.
So proper, so British.
Yeah, I prefer. Give me the kilometers. Give me
And
the SI units every day.
so great, yes. Everything
Maybe
in
growing
SI.
pains for a week if the whole planet just switched to metric. Just 1 week. 1 week. That's it. And then it's over. That's it.
I think. I mean, I can get my head around imperial. It's Fahrenheit. Why?
You can't even spell Fahrenheit.
I would actually have to look it up.
If you can't spell it, you can't use it. Yeah, that should be the rule.
See. It seems like it has like a kind of a German spelling too, and she's been studied in Germany, and she still can't spell Fahrenheit.
No, I can't.
Well, Fahrenheit was a German scientist, wasn't he?
I was about to say, I think it
Bingo!
Is I think it does sound very
I
German.
don't know, but it sounds like it would.
So, I'm wondering, is there any particular either marine biology or any sort of animal life on Guernsey? Well, I know that there's life on Guernsey in general. This isn't like is there life on another planet, but something that's unique to Guernsey.
There is, but it's a plant. It's a fern.
That's a life.
That's all right.
I can't really talk about plants. I'm not really a plant person. The thing is, Guernsey we've got so much data in certain areas because a lot of people will research what they're interested in. So we've got a lot of entomological information, but we've only got about, 14,500 species documented here. There are more. Yeah. I think what is great about islands is that they are hotspots for biodiversity, and they are literally evolution in action. So every island is different, and every island is incredible. And what I love about the Channel Islands is that we know the order that they separated from the continent, but you can actually tell by the wildlife on each island when they separated. So we know that Guernsey separated first, and we have got species.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Guernsey, we have the greater white-toothed shrew, and it sounds ridiculous to have the name white-toothed in the name, but most shrews have got yellow teeth because they've got an iron deposit on their tooth. Ours don't, so they're white, so we call them white. I mean, biology naming structures are just awesome. So we have the greater white-toothed shrew, and then maybe 10 kilometers away is the island of Sark, and they have the lesser white-toothed shrew. And you have, by the time you get to Jersey, which was the last one that separated, they have got moles, grass snakes, squirrels, and a couple of other species that none of the other islands have. And it's because they were the last to separate. So we don't have any snakes, we don't have toads, we don't have squirrels, and we don't have several other species as well, because we separated first. And I find it fascinating. I mean, obviously you can use the rocks and all of your geomorphological information to work out when we separated, but I find it really cool that we can also tell from the species on each island.
I think we've reached the part where we have our rapid fire questions at the end. You're going to love it.
Okay.
I hope. We call these questions and quibbles.
Oh, like
11,
it.
a beautiful a prime number of questions for you. What is the weirdest thing you believed as a kid?
Oh, okay. I've got two. One's sciencey, one's not. I used to think that chickens laid chocolate eggs at Easter because I grew up on a farm. And at Easter, my parents would put out cocoa powder for the chickens that we had, and then we would find chocolate Easter eggs. And I believed for a very
That's
long
funny.
time, genuinely, that our chickens were laying chocolate eggs, until I told a friend who then made fun of me. But I still think it was a really lovely thing my parents did. Yeah, and the science one was, I was low-key convinced that a major reason that the dinosaurs died out was because they evolved before flowering plants and got hay fever and couldn't cope and died. Because I had bad hay fever as a child and I genuinely wanted to die on occasion. And then I grew up and we had found new plant fossils and that theory went kaput.
There you go.
Okay, I like it. I like them both very much.
All right. Which teacher would you say had the biggest positive impact on you?
Oh, that's really tough because there have been different teachers at different points in my life that have made such a difference. But I think the one that, yeah, so secondary school, so high school, Mrs. McCourt, she was my English literature teacher. I hated English literature. I did not understand the point. I saw no reason to analyze these stupid books and try and work out what the authors were doing. And we were given Jane Eyre, and she irritated me. And I was really opinionated about this book. I was so angry about it, to the extent that my English teacher let me have, we would then, you'd have the assigned books, but there was flexibility in the curriculum. And so there was an alternative book, which was Taming of the Shrew, who is actually about a woman that's a lot more empowered. Like Jane Eyre, she should have just got rid of Rochester or whatever the hell his name was, married the dude and gone to India. That dude was in pretty poor health, so he'd have probably died and she could have been a rich widow and lived a completely independent, wonderful life. And I was like, and this makes sense. And Mrs. McCourt actually was the only teacher to make me understand that literature is supposed to make you feel something and there is no right or wrong thing to do. And she actually really, I was really close-minded about it. But her listening to me and how much I hated this book and giving me an alternative made me start to love literature as opposed to science fiction, which is also literature. But, I was really like science fiction, facts, everything else is shit. So yeah, she's a really amazing teacher.
That's wonderful. All right. What is one scientific discovery you wish you could have witnessed in person?
Okay, I know the answer to this one. It was last year. So in fact, around this time last year, July 2024,
Ooh.
a weird whale washed up on Otago shore in New Zealand, and it was rushed off and they did DNA analysis, and it confirmed it was a spade-toothed whale, at which point scientists from all over the world sped to New Zealand. This is it's a beaked whale, it's a deep diving whale, and we have never seen a live one. Normally when they wash up, they're really decomposed, and the Maori have a deep respect and connection to whales, and so they are normally buried. But this one was so fresh that we have a situation where Western science worked with Indigenous knowledge and the Indigenous community to actually take this whale and do a necropsy. So humans, you would do an autopsy; animals, you do a necropsy. And we've learned so much. It's so fresh. The pictures of it are stunning. It's such a beautiful animal, but as a result of this necropsy, scientists have discovered that they have vestigial teeth in their gums of their upper jaw, so that would be sort of the equivalent of human molars. Wisdom teeth, not molars. Yeah, they are molars. Wisdom teeth, whatever. But the coolest bit, guess how many chambers to the stomach it had? Not one, not two, not even four like a cow. 9 chambers to its stomach.
5?
No. 9.
Whoa.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the papers to be published. I would love to have been there at the necropsy when they discovered it had 9 chambers to its stomach. I can't even imagine how evolution has resulted in it having 9 chambers, because it wouldn't be like a ruminant, like a cow needing to ferment matter, because it's a deep diving species and whales can't poo under pressure at depth, and they wouldn't want to have any gas that would try, I mean, you'd end up with embolisms and all sorts of nasty things. So why does it need 9 chambers to its stomach? Why?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Whales can't poop at pressure.
Whales can't poop
That's
under
a science fact that's going up.
In fact,
they're poop shy. They just can't handle the pressure.
No, they can't. They can't poop under pressure, which means that often when they come back to the surface, they will then poop.
Yeah, where we swim.
Still cleaner than fresh water. Still cleaner than fresh water.
Right. If you had to pick one historical scientist to go bowling with, who would it be?
Ooh. I know. Mary Anning, the mother of paleontology, who found an intact plesiosaur skeleton back in the 18-somethings or other, because there's a really famous quote that's attributed to her, and it's something along the lines of like, life's treated her extremely badly, people have been cruel, and so she's really mistrustful. So I'd love to go bowling with her and just be like, look at everything your discovery has done to the world. People love fossils, they love dinosaurs. Yeah. And we'd both be bad at bowling together.
Aw. If you were a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you be?
An open sandwich, because what you see is what you get.
That might be one of the best answers we've had.
That was awesome.
I love that. All right. What is your most controversial opinion about pizza?
Oh. I mean, the pineapple thing has been done to death, so it's not really
Which is a type of
controversial.
open sandwich, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it is a type of open sandwich. In fact, that's my answer. Calzones are better than pizzas.
Ooh.
That's a fighting statement right there. I can think of people ready to throw down for that one. Okay, I'm going to accept that one. I don't know if I agree. I'm just saying I will accept that as being controversial. What is your favorite scientific word or phrase?
Okay, my favourite scientific word is thagomizer, from the Gary Larson comic, where you have a lecturer, a caveman lecturer, who is teaching other cave people that the thagomizer are the spikes on the end of a stegosaurus's tail, named after the late Thag, can't remember his surname. And the paleontological community loved that so much that by the 90s,
Right.
adopted it. So now we refer to that as the thagomizer. And I also have a favourite phrase, and I don't know if it's technically counts, but it's Douglas Adams, and it's everything is connected, because everything is, like, physics, maths, chemistry, biology, oceanography, everything.
Nice. Yeah, when I heard you say Douglas Adams, I assumed you were going to go for something like "So long and thanks for the fish," but everything's connected is also
everything's connected.
A great one.
Yeah.
All right. What is your least favorite scientific word or phrase?
Oh, I could make a joke about reviewer number 2, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say theory, because Because if we're just having a chat, a theory is an idea. But in science, a theory is it's a well-tested explanation. And people dismiss it as it's just a theory. No. You're getting confused with theory and proof. Proof is an absolute final, and proofs only exist in logic and mathematics and whiskey as well. But, that's a separate conversation. But a theory, we test it and we test it and we provide supporting evidence, and the theory might evolve, much like the theory of evolution, perhaps. But the whole point is that you can never prove a theory. You can only provide more evidence for or against. And people completely misunderstand what that is.
That is a constant issue on Science Actually when you post an article. People say, well, it's just a theory. It is a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
Take that.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite useless science fact?
Oh.
Did I interrupt?
Is it possible for any scientific fact to be useless? Okay.
Aww.
I'm going to give you two. And one I know is true. In fact, I know both of them are true. One of them is quite useful, but I think it's... I'm going to stop dithering. Flying fish stink. That's useless. I can't see. I don't know why they stink. They just stink. But a fun useless fact is that bananas glow blue under UV light.
What?
They do?
Mm-hmm. It's to do with chlorophyll.
I have a UV light. I have some bananas. I'm doing that immediately after we're done.
Okay, it's true. So at peak ripeness, the banana should.
No idea.
The banana should become. At peak ripeness, the banana should be completely blue. But as the ripening continues, it will then lose its blue, and you'll just get a blue corona around the brown spots. And what's even cooler is that this applies to both bananas that have been ripened naturally and ones that have been ripened artificially with a gas to accelerate the ripening process. And it's very fun to do with a UV torch.
So this...
So, I mean, it's not technically useless.
I am from now on, every time I go grocery shopping, going to take a UV light with me.
Well, and a little cloak.
It's very useful.
You're excuse me a moment. I've just got to check. Oh my God.
It's not just cool that it does that, but it's also this is when it tastes the best.
Yeah.
Nope, not this one. That's great. All right. Question number 10. Penultimate one. If you could rename one planet in our solar system, what would you call it?
Oh, well, I mean, the obvious one is renaming Earth as Terra, because Earth doesn't fit into the whole naming sequence, but that's boring. So this is where I'm trying to remember my Latin. I would rename Mercury as Luna Solis, which means the moon of the sun, I think. Don't know how good my Latin is.
That's cool.
Love that.
I think.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Better than mine.
What was yours?
All the Latin I learned is from Life of Brian, when the guy had to write his phrase over and over and over.
See, this
Romanis iunt. Romans go the out. There. That's my Latin lesson. That's the Latin class I went to.
But this is where we screw up as when we teach people, because we should, so many of the Latin names of everything tell you what it is. Like plagioclase is a mineral in rocks that is a twin, and literally the Latin name means that. So if you know the Latin, you never have to remember what the microscopic properties are, because the name tells you.
I learned that dandelion, the etymology of that word, is the Latin words for lion's teeth.
the Latin name for a walrus literally means tooth walker, and walruses will pull themselves out of the water onto the ice with their teeth and then literally walk themselves forward with their teeth.
If you had to sing one karaoke song to save humanity from an alien invasion, what song would you sing?
Well, first of all, it's getting destroyed because I can't sing in tune. And second of all, it would have to be "I'm a Barbie Girl," because even if you can't sing in tune, you can kind of make that song work. And I defy anyone to be sad at the end of that song.
That's a really good answer.
You made it through. You made it through the gauntlet of questions.
Awesome.
Yeah,
It's always really
Thank
scary.
you so much for being on our show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've had so much fun.
It's been fun. Yeah, I feel like we could do hours of this. An absolute
should
font
definitely do a
of
round
knowledge and fun facts and science. Where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to follow you and learn more about the cool stuff that you're doing?
Pretty much everywhere except the dumpster fire that is Twitter, because I deleted my account because I disapprove of everything associated with that man. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. TikTok's my main place. I find the TikTok audience they're really cool. I really like them. But I will be doing a lot more on YouTube in the next couple of months because I have a video series coming out in collaboration with Guernsey Museums, because they have got so many cool specimens that they don't have the space to put on display. So I'm doing a deep dive through their archives, and the walruses may feature, which is how I know about the tooth walker bit as part of my research for that.
Very cool. Awesome. What about you, Benjamin? Where can the people find you?
You can find me under the name Science Actually pretty much everywhere. I don't really post too much on Twitter because it's just a waste of time. But Facebook's the main place. LinkedIn. If you want to see this show, please go to TikTok or YouTube. And on Science Actually, I post a science fact every single day. A significant portion of them has a little something that says, "Thanks, the Guernsey Scientist, for letting me know that I just found out this really weird thing about a slug or something."
Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Kovi? Where are you?
I am in Australia. You can find me at Fun Fact Scientist. I got it wrong. You can find me at Fun Fact Science. Sorry, my brain was thinking Guernsey Scientist, just to make sure that all of our followers would be sure to follow you, Liz. Yes, but if folks for some reason are still looking for me, you can find me at Fun Fact Science on all of the good social media platforms and also all the bad ones. And we will see all of you next week on the next episode of The Nerd and the Scientist, presented by Science Actually.